For one to accept another person as a teacher, they do not need to be physically present or even necessarily physically have met the teacher. In the mind of the student, when they think this is my teacher, then it becomes the teacher. When you think like that very strongly, even without a formal ceremony or formal introduction, the person becomes your teacher. So therefore, it is possible to have faith and respect and also a draw to a person who we are karmically connected with. So in short, when we think the person is our teacher, then we should hold the person as our teacher and very loyally and very strongly, and study the 50 verses of Guru devotion and also the teacher and disciple relationship as written by Tsongkhapa. That would be very good. Next one is, in order to become a novice monk, one can be basically any age, but to become a fully ordained monk, a bhikshu, a gelong, you have to be above age 21. So to be a novice monk, you can hold the basic preliminary vows, and that one can be any age. Again, to become a fully ordained monk, you have to be a novice monk first. After becoming a novice monk, after the age of 21, then you are a fully ordained monk, a bhikshu, or in Tibetan, a gelong. It is possible to become a monk and outwardly live a layperson's life, working, paying bills, and taking care of responsibility with a strong aspiration that one wishes to become a monk also outwardly, not only inwardly. Within the monk vows, you have the Tsawa Shi. Tsawa Shi, or the 4 main root vows, is the most important that one needs to hold and keep very sacred and keep very strong. So I would highly recommend for you now to read the monk verses, which you can Google online and find it. I think it should be on my blog also on a post, and read up on the monk vows, especially the 4 root vows, and feel and think as if you are a monk already, and then behave and act and do and speak and talk as if you are a monk. Many years ago when I was in Los Angeles, when I was living with the master, Geshe Tsulem Gyaltsen, I also expressed to him my strong wish to become a monk. But because I had bills and I had payments and I had loans, I couldn't take off and leave the United States and go to India immediately. So it took me, from the time I wished to become a monk until I left, it was 5 or 6 years before I can accomplish it. So Geshe-la told me that although you are not a monk now, you should behave like one, act like one, speak like one, talk like one, and most important, think like one. Although you're not wearing the robes of a monk, or you are not in a monk environment and physically acting like a monk, the attitude should be one of a monk. This is what he told me. So when I actually take my monk vows, then it becomes very, very powerful, and it becomes very easy, and it's a very smooth transition. You don't want to behave and act and think like you're a monk when you become a monk. You have to act and behave and think like one before you become one, so it becomes a very smooth transition. To take on the monk vows these days and to hold on to it for one day is equivalent to holding on to it for one lifetime during Buddha's time. So if we were to hold monk vows now or nun vows now, one day of holding our vows strongly and well, we collect the same amount of merit as if during Buddha's time we're holding our vows for a whole lifetime. And the reason is because it is more tough and more difficult to hold our vows these days. The obstacles are much more. Since the obstacles are much more, the merits are much more, similarly. And the reason we wish to become a monk is, the monk is based on the self-liberation vows, pratimosha, and what we wish is that we see the faults, we see the disasters, we see the repercussions and the repetitiveness, roboticness of samsaric life. How we just engage in actions that are robotic and repetitive but have no purpose. Seeing the faults of this in samsara, understanding the faults of this in samsara, we develop a very strong renunciation. When we develop a strong renunciation, we seek and we wish to go towards full enlightenment. Because we wish to go towards full enlightenment, then Lord Buddha has offered us the vows of a monk and a nun, which we can take, and upon taking them and living within the vows, we create the causes for nirvana or self-liberation. When these vows are taken with a motivation of benefiting others, then the power of the vows extend more and further and wider and much more bigger. So taking on the vows of a monk is very powerful. Taking on the vows of a monk or a nun is very powerful because one creates the causes for one to get the 5 senses under control. Think how difficult it is to control our speech, our thinking. Think how difficult it is to control our feelings, our attachments, and what we see and our desires. When we take the vows of a monk or a nun, we create the causes, and every day we collect the merit to control our 5 senses, to control our mind, that instead of it or they becoming objects or venues that create more sorrow, they become venues that create more peace and happiness. Ordinary people use their sight to find negative actions. They use their ear to listen to negative actions. They use their speech to perpetuate negative actions. And they use their mind to increase and plot and plan for more negative actions. Negative actions does not make a person negative, but negative actions arise from a person's ignorance. So negative actions and negative thought doesn't make a person evil or bad, but it's natural and spontaneous because of habituation and because of ignorance. So therefore, when we are not in control of our mind, we're not in control of our senses, and we're always looking for sensory gratification. And when we look for sensory gratification, this increases the desire and hatred and anger and attachment in our mind, which fuels the sensory attachments and fulfilling those attachments. And those attachments make us thirsty, and then we want to find more fulfillment, and then that makes us even more empty and more lonely, and it goes round and round and round and round. So therefore, taking the vows of a monk or a nun, the main purpose is to cut our attachment, cut the basis of all that increases our attachment through the 5 senses. All that increases our attachment through the 5 senses are cut by taking on the vows. And therefore, when we take on the vows and we hold it well, we gain control of our mind, we gain control of our 5 senses. Therefore, our 5 senses are used as venues to create virtue, peace, happiness, and liberation for ourselves and others, as opposed to our 5 senses being used to create more desire, more anger, more thirst, more lack of peace. So therefore, holding on to these vows are extremely important. And when we think about it, we should think about Lord Buddha very strongly. And we should take refuge in Lord Buddha very strongly. And we should think about Lord Buddha very strongly. And by thinking about Lord Buddha very, very, very strongly, we take refuge in Lord Buddha. We take refuge in Lord Buddha, and we realize that Buddha became a Buddha by the practice of the Dharma. And thereby we take refuge in the Holy Dharma. When we take refuge in the Holy Dharma, the Dharma has all the methods to eradicate every single neurosis and negative thought and negative action and its propensity within our mind stream. And therefore, Dharma is the real path that brings genuine happiness, genuine peace, and genuine fruition of good actions. So therefore, we take refuge in the Dharma, realizing that when we practice and when we engage in the Dharma, it has the real, genuine methods for bringing peace and an end to this robotic existence that we are stuck in over and over, life after life. And thereby, those who embody these teachings, those who embody and practice and learn and meditate and engage in the teachings are Sangha, monks and nuns, Dharma brothers and sisters, who give up their worldly attachments and they engage in the Dharma strongly, and therefore the Dharma arises in their mind in form of eradication of these attachments. So when the Sangha had the eradication of these negative states of mind and positive states of mind arises. And therefore their actions are virtuous. They become a true Sangha and someone that we can take refuge in and we can take inspiration towards. So therefore, realizing the power of the Buddha and his and her enlightenment and the holy Dharma that is the cause of this enlightenment, and then the Sangha who embody the Dharma and practice the Dharma where we can receive the Dharma from. We take refuge in the holy Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha from our heart, and we develop renunciation, and from renunciation we develop a true longing to escape the unhappiness of ordinary, robotic, empty, attached life. And therefore, I wish to become a monk, I wish to become a nun, so that I can live the rest of my life in spiritual peace, in mental peace, where I am protected by my vows from being attached to another person romantically, from being attached to money, materialistically, to being attached to clothes and perfumes and ornaments and fun and music and all these things that when I engage in, they only bring more and more emptiness. So I'm protected from this. And within this protection, I am able to have the space and the time and the peace to practice Dharma. And therefore, when I practice the Dharma, I develop my mind. When I develop my mind, I become spiritually aware and I grow spiritually so that in the end, whatever I've missed in my life as a monk or a nun doesn't become something I've missed. It is something that I have avoided that would have caused a lot of problems. And therefore, no regrets come from avoiding all secular activities, all secular so-called fun. Therefore, being a monk and a nun is pure protection. It is like wearing a fireproof suit that even though you're near the fire, your body does not burn because you're protected. So by having the vows of a monk or a nun, we are protected from the fires of passion, anger, attachment, desire, robotic life, and basically wasting our life on doing things that bring no benefit. So it's like having a fireproof suit against samsara and its burning activities that bring no satisfaction whatsoever. So therefore, before we become a monk, before we become a nun, we should behave like one, think like one, act like one, and we should focus that we are like a monk and behave like one. And how do we behave like a monk or a nun? To be extremely humble, to be respectful of others, to be infinitely patient in other people's behaviors that we might find disturbing. We should be infinitely tolerant of others, and we should use our body and our speech and mind to bring a benefit to others, to increase other people's faith in the Dharma, not in a showy way, not in a way of showing off, but by practice. So therefore, as a monk and a nun, what is most important is that we behave in such a way that increases other people's faith, increases other people's practice. And if we're highly attained, we can use many methods to bring other people to the Dharma, to tame their minds to the Dharma. But as ordinary monks and nuns, we should be very humble, we should be very caring, we should take care of others when they're ill, we should make sure they're fed, we should protect them from the elements, we should focus out and make sure that others are comfortable, at least those around us as a beginning. So to have the aspiration to become a monk, to think of Lord Buddha very strongly, and to have the aspiration to be a monk, and to pray to become a Sangha, a monk or a nun, is extremely virtuous. Remember, the lineage of the Sangha, monk and nunhood, arose not from a Tibetan Lama or Indian Pandit, but arose from Lord Buddha himself. Therefore, whatever has arisen from the mind of an enlightened being such as Buddha can only bring benefit. In today's world, when you tell people you wish to become a monk or nun, it creates fear and disgust in their minds, thinking that you're wasting your life. The truth is, they are wasting their life. When you become a monk and a nun, you don't waste your life. If you waste your life by becoming a monk and nun, then Buddha Shakyamuni would have wasted his life. That's not possible. So therefore, I rejoice in what your aspiration is, and I offer prayers to the three jewels that your aspirations come true. Most important now is to think and behave and act like a monk, study up on the monk vows, and understand that why you want to become a monk. Understand that well within yourself. Actually, lay people are not allowed to study the vows of a monk or a nun, but in this case, it's an exception because you wish to become one. I wish you very well, and I offer my prayers to Lord Buddha for your success. Tsem tupu.